Welcome to another episode of Lemoyne Out Loud. I'm Erin Van Slyke.
And I'm Alex Stamos.
And we're going to start out with a little bit of recent news for you. In recent social media news, Kony 2012 has been the leading trend throughout the nation. Controversy regarding Kony has people asking, what can I do to help, and how is this call to action flawed? Us at LCTV want to know what you think about Kony 2012. Tweet at LCTV Lemoyne and tell us what you think. Check out LCTV for more information regarding Kony 2012, and stay tuned to LCTV to watch the video that has affected millions throughout the Facebook and Twitter. So what do you think of Kony 2012?
I thought over spring break, I feel like everyone just suddenly became a political activist. Like they think, oh, I'm gonna like this status, I'm gonna change the world. Like I agree with what that group, I think they're called Invisible Children, I think that's the group that runs it.
Well,
I agree with what they're doing, but it's just, I don't agree with people building themselves up, putting themselves on a pedestal.
I mean, I agree with, stopping putting children, making them soldiers and all that. But I mean, I agree. I mean, I think it's very blown up. And I think a lot of people are wearing Kony shirts. They have no idea what it's about.
Yeah, liking a status, wearing a shirt is not going to stop you, gun and warlord.
But let us know what you think. And if you think it's way too in the media, and if it's too, just let us know. And we can talk about it more.
In controversial college news, in a recent study of college admissions and aid, more college students will be asked to declare sexual orientation on application forms. Colleges such as the University of California proposed the idea. Other schools, such as Elmhurst College in Illinois, announced that each would ask students their sexual orientation on admission applications to identify students as gay or straight. Students who identify themselves as gay were eligible for a diversity scholarship. Now, what do you think about this?
I think this is ridiculous.
I think that's a little over the top.
I think this is completely ridiculous.
It's are they trying to fill a quota? It's
almost like race,
Yeah, I mean, I don't even agree with that.
I don't agree with that either, but I mean, this is going over the top
That's
to me.
over the top, way over the top.
Your sexual orientation should have nothing to do with how you'll perform in a college.
Exactly, and they shouldn't trying to be filling a quota for it either.
Exactly.
So it's just wrong, in my opinion.
I agree. See, Stamos and I do agree on things. Patrick's Day is celebrated on March 17th every year and is one of many universally celebrated holidays. In Irish history, the Saint Religious Day is the anniversary of St. Patrick's death in the 5th century. This religious holiday is usually celebrated with a parade, a sea of green shamrocks, and Irish flags. Stay tuned on our very own cooking show where we will be making a common favorite, the shamrock shake. So I think that's all we have for news for today. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed St. Patrick's Day, and thanks for tuning in, and check out LCTV Sports Talk next. I'm Erin Van Slyke.
I'm Alex Stamos.
And we're here for Lemoyne Out Loud.
Welcome to Lemoyne College Sports Talk. This is Jeremiah Deep.
And this is Matt Clark. We have another great week of busy sports to talk about. Let's get started. Peyton Manning, cut by the Colts after spending so many years of them, 15 I think in all. Many teams are looking to get him. Where do you think he's going?
Well, the Denver Broncos and the Arizona Cardinals right now are the leaders in getting Peyton Manning. With the Dolphins, they have a chance as well. I think the best fit for him would be the Houston Texans. I think with Andre Johnson, a great receiver, the defense that they have, if they'd sign Mario Williams, I think that he would win a Super Bowl there. But where I think he'll go, my guess right now, I'd say is Arizona. I think that sounds like a good team with Larry Fitzgerald. I don't think the Broncos are that great of a fit for me, to me anyways.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the Arizona pick as well, mainly because he can play indoors, and also he'll be able to play in domes in San Francisco in the St. Louis Dome. He'll be able to take an easier tax on his body like Favre did when he went to Minnesota, so that will work out. And also, I think that it doesn't really matter where he goes as far as Super Bowl contending, because he has shown for many years that he can take minimal talent and make contenders out of it.
Do you think he could bring a team like Denver to the Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
Now, what would they do with Tim Tebow if they decided to get Peyton Manning? Some say they'd keep him. Others say you have to get rid of him.
There's many options that are available for them. If it were me, I would probably, if I were the Denver Broncos, I would probably keep Tebow and use him in goal line situations, save the tax on Manning's body any way you can, because he proved last year that he's a machine around the goal line in short yard situations. So if you have a player of that talent, it's best to use him.
That might sound like a good idea, but would Peyton go for that? You know how he wants to be in there all the time, every play. I don't know if I'd see him doing that, letting Tebow do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I think Peyton Manning wants to win as badly as possible, considering all the talk about him not being able to come back 100% after all his neck surgery and such. And plus, at the end of the day, he was cut. Like that stays with a player for a while. And a player as competitive as him and works as hard as him, I think will do anything that he can to get the team back to the Super Bowl, including playing with the sainted Tim Tebow.
Okay, so the teams we mentioned so far, Denver, Arizona, Miami. I brought up Houston. Is there any other team that you could see that would come up maybe at the last minute and grab him? Kind of like Prince Fielder went to the Tigers. Nobody saw it coming.
I don't really see a team doing that unless maybe San Francisco decides to let go of Alex Smith, because they just recently signed Randy Moss. They have the defense in place. They have Frank Gore, who's a talented running back. I think that Peyton Manning going to the 49ers would make sense.
Yeah, that could be a good team, but they have to get rid of Smith. Honestly, I thought the New York Jets possibly, but now giving Sanchez a new deal, that's not going to happen. So I think it's between the Cardinals, Broncos, or maybe the Dolphins. Who knows? Mm-hmm. And now an ongoing saga in the NBA. Orlando Magic center Dwight Howard said Tuesday that he wants to remain in Orlando for the rest of the year. But the problem, the Magic say, if he does not sign an extension before Thursday's deadline at 5 p.m., they will look to trade him. So is it smart for Dwight Howard to say he commits but doesn't sign a contract?
I don't even think Dwight Howard knows what he's actually saying. Like, if you ever watch him on the court, he's a very immature player. He really doesn't have the serious look that a lot of great players have had, like Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul. They're always in the game. Dwight Howard laughs at the kiss cam during a game. I really can't take a guy seriously for his future when his favorite movie is Finding Nemo. It's hard to take a guy seriously in trade talks when that's the case with him. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think that they should trade him because he's not committing to him long term. He said, I'll commit to you guys this year. He didn't say long term. So I think the smart thing is to get something for him, maybe trade him to the team like the Nets. I mean, he gave a list of teams that he wanted to go to. He said the Nets, the Lakers, who are now pretty much out of the question, and also the Dallas Mavericks. So, and the New York Knicks early in the season, he said he'd like to go there. So he gave a list of 4 teams that he wanted to go to. So it makes sense for them to move him because he hasn't committed long-term only to just this season.
And the Knicks thing makes sense because of the issues with Carmelo recently, and that those players are pretty even talent-wise. So I think a Tyson Chandler and Carmelo trade for Dwight Howard and some cap money would make sense. But I think at the end of the day, the Magic should keep him because they've beaten the Heat, they've beaten the Bulls with the core group they have intact, and I think they legitimately could go to war with the Bulls and Heat in a 7-game series with the team that have J.J. Redick, solid shooting guard Ryan Anderson, one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA. Jameer Nelson has had an off year, but he plays well in the playoffs primarily. So I think if they keep the team they have intact as of now, they have a serious shot, and then just side on next season when that comes around.
The problem, though, is they are third in the Eastern Conference, so you're right, they have a shot. But ultimately, I don't see them being able, with Dwight Howard even, to defeat either the Heat or the Bulls.
They did 2 years ago when they beat Cleveland and Boston.
They did, but I don't see them being these 2 teams. These are the top 2 teams, maybe even in the league, arguably, next to the Thunder. So I don't see that they'll be able to do it. So for me, if you can't beat him with Dwight Howard, you might as well get something for him, maybe like a Brook Lopez or something.
Brook Lopez is terrible. He gets 5 rebounds a game.
Well, would you rather get a Brook Lopez or lose Dwight Howard at the end of the season and get nothing for him?
I'd rather get nothing, have cap space, than rebuild.
And there's some people that would say that.
And I'd rather not slap my fans in the face and say, hey, we've had a great season so far. Let's just throw it down the drain because we have a pouty.
So you want to play one season instead of thinking towards the future then?
Absolutely. But now, speaking of 7-foot centers, Fab Melo of the Syracuse Orange did not go to class for the past week or so, or many weeks apparently, as he's found a way to have himself academically ineligible for the tournament. What does SU do now for their tournament hopes?
Well, I actually had Vanderbilt upsetting them, I believe, in the 3rd round of the tournament. So for me, it doesn't affect me that much. But I know some people that picked them to go to the Elite 8, maybe Final 4. I know people that have picked them to win the national championship. So that really stinks for people that already filled out their bracket. And for the Orange, it's a terrible loss. It just, I mean, all the things that happened this season, this definitely just tops everything with, the Bernie Fine thing and then players in the past failing drug tests. This just tops it. This really puts them at a disadvantage.
I know this sounds crazy, but I've been a Syracuse fan for my entire life. I will refuse to pick against them. They're going to win the national championship. I don't care how far-fetched it is. Jim Boeheim's a great coach. They always fail early in the tournament. Melo is a reverse jinx of sorts. We'll see what happens.
But they have their one loss without him. Remember that. That was to Notre Dame. So he missed 3 games this year. There
gets it done.
You think so? I think it's tough. Defensively, he's the reason why they're so good. I just don't see him doing it, honestly.
Well, for the rest of your bracket talk, we'll now throw it over to Dan and Alex as they dissect the brackets and figure out what other teams aside from Syracuse have a chance at the tournament. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jeremiah. Until next time, have a nice day.
Thank you, Matt and Jeremiah. That's right, NCAA tournament time, March Madness, everybody's favorite time
Everyone's
of the year.
favorite month,
It's the most wonderful, second most wonderful time of the year.
I have to say, right behind December. But speaking of
We got a bracket to go over. We'll start
just
in the East. We'll start with
dive into it.
Syracuse. You got them moving into
the Sweet 16.
the Sweet 16. Bold choice, getting past Kansas State. Vanderbilt.
Now I know everyone's jumping on the Vanderbilt bandwagon, including us. But if Fat Melo was there, I'd give SU the edge. But without that presence in the center of the 2-3 zone, you got to put Vanderbilt over Syracuse.
And right, we saw it. We saw Vanderbilt take down a very tough Kentucky team, and we saw Syracuse fall earlier in the season to Notre Dame.
Without Fat Melo.
And in the Big East tournament with Fat Melo, but still lost to Cincinnati. So you got Vanderbilt moving on.
Exactly. Next game, we got a very hot Florida State team going against always good Ohio State with Jaron Sullinger. This one's a tough one to pick because Florida State has beaten teams like North Carolina twice. I believe they beat Duke once, correct me if I'm wrong. They have plenty of quality wins. They're coming hot out of the ACC tournament. But Ohio State has been solid all season.
Right, Florida State came out strong in the ACC tournament, but Ohio State knocking on the door last year, finally opening that door this year. I got them moving on.
We got them moving on to play the Vanderbilt Commodores in the Elite Eight. Moving down to the Midwest bracket, we have the North Carolina Tar Heels go up against the Michigan Wolverines. This one, I mean, give credit to Michigan, all the credit in the world, but North Carolina just outmatches them.
Powerhouse team in
Just-
North Carolina.
it's
So
hard
much
to pick against
experience
them.
coming into this tournament. Don't see them letting up.
And next we have, now with this one you have to explain a little bit. We have NC State.
NC State, surprising team coming out of kind of the underdogs of that conference. I mean, we saw them put up
they
good
gave
fight.
North Carolina a good game for sure, and we have them coming off a win against Belmont.
Belmont is our sleeper pick, one of our two sleeper picks of this tournament. Upsetting Georgetown, who hasn't quite been the same team the
They've
whole
been
year,
good, but not
not
consistent.
great.
Exactly.
They haven't set that bar yet, which is why we have Belmont over them, and which is why we have NC State over Belmont.
And now we have NC State going against the second-ranked Kansas Jayhawks, and I think this is where Cinderella's run is over with.
Yeah,
we can't. It's hard to have anyone other than the Tar Heels and the Jayhawks.
The red
the
pullover
Elite Eight.
jacket is not going to do much worse. Not going to do any better.
All right, we'll come back to this side of the bracket. We're going to move to the
Moving
south.
over as I gladly take over here. South, Wichita State have them beating VCU. VCU is not the same team they were last year. Shaka Smart.
They're not
He can
gonna
only
fly
do
under
so
radar.
much.
And then we have them beating Indiana, who's missing a key senior, who's been with them since before this run where they've gotten
Still
the
with the
fourth seed.
presence of of Cody Zeller.
Mhm.
I don't see them eclipsing over Wichita State. Wichita State's strong team, strong from the three. But Kentucky.
They're young, but they're good.
Kentucky is
They're good.
way too good
Way too
to be
talented.
ruled out.
Mhm.
I mean, number one seed, 2 losses on the season, 1 loss on the season, 2 losses to Vanderbilt.
You got to fear Anthony Davis and his
We're
unibrow.
just gonna pencil them in. I mean, I don't see anybody taking them down until possibly later on.
fear the brow.
This is a matchup I'm excited about.
Baylor and Duke.
Duke, you never know what to expect from them. We
Duke-
saw against UNC, they fell
They fell
horribly.
after coming back in the last 2.5 minutes in Chapel Hill.
Right.
And putting on one of the best performances we've seen in a Duke North Carolina game, with Austin Rivers just catching fire and then the rest of the team just following suit. Duke, if they're going to hit their threes, if they're going to make over 10 threes in one game, they will be in it to the end. But if you take away the three, they're almost ineffective.
Right, you saw in Chapel Hill, great comeback. Then you moved to Cameron Indoor. Kind of fell apart a little bit. UNC
They never had the
overmatching
lead.
them. So this is where I don't know what Duke team is going to show up. Baylor, too much for them, I think.
Too much. And Baylor has been hot from the end of the season into the Big Ten tournament.
Right, Big Ten.
Big Ten.
Moving down into the West, Michigan State with another one of our sleeper picks, Long Beach State. A lot of experience.
The number one toughest out-of-conference schedule. They played North Carolina very close in Chapel Hill. They played Kansas very close on the road. They've been battle-tested. I could see them pulling this upset against Michigan State, but Michigan State,
Little-
Tom Izzo has his boys going way
Tom
too
Izzo
good
has a
right now.
knack for getting number 1 seeds into the Final Four. We've seen that countless times and times again. We got them going on. And talk a little bit about Murray State Racers. Where did they come from?
No one knows. They're 30-1. They're hot. A lot of people don't want to buy into the hype, but I think they're going to come into this tournament kind of hot-headed because no one's buying into the hype. Everyone's saying Murray State's going to fall apart, if not to Colorado State in the first round, to Marquette in the second round. But we have them all the way in the Sweet 16 against the Missouri Tigers.
They have something to prove. Missouri has something better to prove.
And we can't put them past
Too
Missouri.
fast-paced of a team.
Too much.
Just exactly. They can't handle them.
Now we're going to go back up to the east with our Elite Eight matchup between the Vanderbilt Commodores and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Vanderbilt's run coming to an end here. Very close, though. Very
I have
close.
this a single-digit game. Jared Saunders he's going to be the difference. I think that's a safe bet. But Ohio State's going to come out 9 points or less, and they're going to go to the final four.
And then we got your team,
My Tar
North
Heels.
Carolina Tar Heels, going against Kansas Jayhawks.
Now, my unbiased opinion, this game could go either way.
I think so.
But my professional opinion, North Carolina, just too much. This exact same starting lineup minus Dexter Strickland because he's out with the ACL.
Right.
Made it to the Elite Eight last year, lost to the Kentucky Wildcats. Now they're battle tested. They've got all the experience. They have 2 7-footers, which is so hard to defend. I got to pick the Tar Heels. going
Battle
on.
tested long enough, finally here to prove their worth. Moving on to the Final Four. As we move over back to the South, we have Kentucky, Baylor. This is the matchup I wanted to see in the national championship. Unfortunately, we can only
can't.
go as far as the Elite Eight. Do you
I-
think Kentucky's experience starts to limit them?
This is where I see Kentucky, I don't want to say falling apart because they're too good of a team to just crumble.
I don't think this is going to be no blowout.
No blowout.
Anything
I
within
just
10.
see the experience of Baylor outmatching the young freshmen. Calipari's system of bringing in consistent McDonald's All-Americans can only go so far. I just don't see a team stacked with freshmen going to the national championship. So this is where we have the Baylor Bears
This is where we have Baylor
pulling
moving
off the
on.
upset against
A
Kentucky.
very, not so much an upset as much as everybody thinks Kentucky is going to move on. Just a little bit of a roadblock. If Anthony Davis does stay on the team next year, maybe. But I don't think he will.
No, I highly doubt it.
And then moving on to the West, can Tom Izzo do it again? Can he bring his team to the Final Four? Or will Missouri continue their run coming into this tournament?
See, the
keep
Spartans, it's amazing what they've done. They've flown, after the loss to North Carolina to start the season, they've flown under the radar.
I haven't heard anything from them.
They essentially stole a number 1 seed. No one saw that coming until the conference tournament.
I could have seen Kansas easily taking this.
Exactly.
Michigan State coming out of nowhere.
I think Tom Izzo has a great thing going with the Spartans, but it's so tough to pick them against the Missouri team who has beaten the likes of Kansas. And Missouri's just on fire. It's hard to pick against them.
It's hard to not.
I'm not sold on the Spartans. As impressive as they have been, I'm not sold. And I think Missouri's going to go right past them. To
The
the Final
Tigers moving on to the Final Four.
Four. Let's go Baylor, Missouri.
We'll stay here. Baylor, Missouri. I mean, we've already talked about the positives in each team. Where do you see any negatives coming into play? Do you think Missouri's fast-paced tempo is going to kind of limit or expand on their turnovers? I think that might translate a little bit.
I think the fast pace is going to get Missouri out ahead early. Maybe a quick 10-0 run.
Can they keep that pace, though?
Can they keep the pace is a question. I think that's where Baylor's going to come back in because this game isn't going to be a blowout. Any game Elite Eight and on is not going to be a blowout. And Baylor's going to keep it close, but I think Missouri's fast-paced offense, like you said, and the fact that they just played better competition. Granted, Baylor has beaten good teams. Missouri has had some quality wins. I think you got to give the edge to the Tigers.
Giving the edge to the Tigers. I've been with them. They've been my under-the-radar team the whole year. I've been on Kentucky's bandwagon. I've been on Kansas's bandwagon. Missouri has been my team. I got them going on, too.
So that leaves
Moving
us-
over to Ohio State, North Carolina. This is a matchup I'd love to see.
I would love to see what Jared Sullinger could or could not do against North Carolina's big men. Because you got Henson and you've got Zeller, 2 7-footers. As we see, Zeller has a problem getting his hand out on shooters such as Austin Rivers. Hopefully he learned his lesson. He can get on Jared Sullinger if the opportunity presents itself.
I want to say Ohio State. They were knocking on the door last year.
They were.
And I think they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna pull through again. I think North Carolina's got too much size, too much of an advantage in this game,
Too much experience.
proven their worth, and it's their time.
Like I could see Ohio State pulling it off. It would not surprise me, but it's just so hard to pick against the Tar Heels this year.
Throw
Whether
the
or not
Tar Heels
I'm a
up
fan.
there, give them some love. Where it leads us to our final game:
The
Missouri Tigers, North Carolina Tar Heels. We've already said enough.
We've said enough about North Carolina. There's no need to beat a dead horse here. I mean, after beating Ohio State, which I think is a better win than Missouri. in
I
my
think
opinion.
if you look at the schedules of each, you got over Creighton, great offensive powerhouse. Over Michigan, high-powered,
they've beaten Ohio
underrated.
State.
Over Kansas, over Ohio State. And then you look at Missouri's schedule. Yeah, Florida has great three-point shooters. Murray State, bit of a underrated Cinderella team. Like,
With the exception of Michigan State, every team that we have Missouri beating is a team they should beat. There's no, wow, they pulled this off kind of win. Like Michigan State would be a statement, but everything else is something. They're games you would expect Missouri to win. And Missouri is a good, fast-paced team, but that's Roy Williams' bread and
I
butter
think
with
it's
the Tar
battle.
Heels.
They've shown it time and time again. North Carolina has what it takes to win this national championship.
And you think Missouri has a fast-paced offense? That's what North
You
Carolina
saw what
does.
North Carolina did against Duke in Duke.
Exactly.
22-5 to start off the game along those lines, and then they didn't
Lots of
let
love.
up.
They just kept.
Which
They stepped on their throat and they just didn't let them
they
even get close.
full throttle throughout.
So without further ado, we're going to have the North
Carolina Tar Heels. Now, having said that, do you see any team on this board? I mean, last year we had an 8 and a 9 go against each other in the Final Four with Butler and VCU. Do you see any team pulling off that kind of a run?
I'm glad you asked because I know we have them losing early in the second round, but UNLV, the Running Rebels, I can see them coming out of that bracket into the Final Four if they can get hot enough because they gave North Carolina their first loss of the season. They've played plenty of teams close, and they just have that kind of firepower where they can pull it off. And then also on this side, we have Long Beach State, who we talked about before.
We have them going pretty far.
But I can
from
see
a
them-
12 standpoint.
I can see them making a VCU run though.
One team I'm excited to see coming out of the Midwest, Creighton. I want to see what they can do against North Carolina.
I told you before we did this, they could give North Carolina some problems, for sure. They've got a great team. They've been a very quiet ranked team throughout the season. I think they could give North Carolina some problems in the second round, for sure. But what about the East? Who do you got in the East as a potential?
If I had a Cinderella team, underrated, maybe Kansas State, maybe West Virginia.
Really?
I'd
West
like to see
Virginia.
what Big East teams can do in this tournament because I think it's probably the best, if not the second best conference.
I put them right behind the Big Ten.
I
Right
think
behind the Big Ten.
interchangeable. You can go either way with that. I want to see what a Big East team can do in this tournament because I don't think Syracuse. I don't know how they've pulled it off all year with all the distractions.
I don't know either. They've had the Bernie Fine case, and then they've got Fab Mello consistently getting in trouble. I commend them for getting this far and getting a number one seed.
Getting
with
a
all
number one
that's going
seed,
on.
right, despite losing the Big East tournament. I want to see what West Virginia can maybe do if they get past Gonzaga. Because if you get that one game under your belt,
It just gives you
you
confidence
get,
going into the next games.
exactly.
I mean, I've seen them play, and they're a decent team, but it's hit or miss. If they're not playing well, they're gonna be.
How about one
they're gonna be
team
killed.
out of the South?
Out of the South?
You
Like I
said
said,
UNLV.
We have UNLV.
We have Long Beach State in the West, Creighton in the East, Creighton in the Midwest,
Yep, great in the Midwest. And
West
then
Virginia in the East.
West Virginia in the East.
Do you see anything higher than a 5 seed going to the national championship?
Going on the national championship, pulling a Butler from last year.
Pulling a Butler, pulling.
Honestly, if I had to pick one team out of the entire bracket, I'd have to go with Murray State because they're going to come in wanting to prove something, and if they can prove that they can win, if they can get past Marquette like we have them here, look out. I mean, they'll give Missouri a test for sure. That will not be a game decided by more than 9 points. I
Well-
can see them making a run.
As we move on to New Orleans, it'll be yet again one magical month,
And I'm sure
full of upsets.
I'm sure this will be
or it'll
crossed
be all
out.
chalk. We don't know. Well, for Alex Stamus, Dan Snyder, your bracketologist here on LCTV, we'll keep you updated as the season goes on. Thanks for watching.
Hi, welcome to What's Cooking Good Looking. I'm Erin Van Slyke,
And I'm Alex Stamos.
and for our special St. Patrick's Day episode of LCTV, we are going to make shamrock shakes. So, have you ever had a shamrock shake from a
No, I have
McDonald's?
not. I've never had a Shamrock Shake, period.
really? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take mint chocolate chip ice cream, and we're going to dump it in there. And have you ever had mint milk?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, mint milk you can only get at like Burn Dairy. I think they sell like other kinds of mint milk, but like the only kind I've ever really tried is the Burn Dairy kind. And they're limited supply, so make sure you go and get some.
Make sure you deposit the bottle, otherwise the milk police are going to come get you.
Yeah, the milk police will come get you if you don't deposit the bottle. All right.
Does the milk come next?
The milk does come next. It's very good, Stamos.
I'm learning.
All right. So just pour like a quarter of the way to start out with. We're going to try to eyeball it and see like what will give us the best consistency.
Just tell me when to stop.
And don't ever forget to put the top on your blender. That's good. All right. So basically we're going to see what it looks like. If you will, press the shake button.
Shake.
We have some technical difficulties.
We have a non-working blender.
And in that case, when the blender doesn't work, you have to scoop some of the ice cream around. But as you can see, the shake looks green.
We aren't using ice cream, we have chips in it too.
Yeah, I said it was mint chocolate chip ice cream. It gives it, I don't know, it gives it a better texture, in my opinion. All right, and at this point, we can add more of our ice cream and more of our milk because we have a good consistency of that.
I'm just ready with the milk.
The milkman over here. I like your hat today, Stamos. It's very nice.
Thank you. Kanda made me wear it.
Yeah, Kanda made you wear it?
Mm-hmm.
Makes you look like a leprechaun.
Well, I needed some green for the episode today.
All right, that's good. And if you guys don't have and don't want to buy mint milk, you can just buy mint extract and add it to regular white milk. Make sure you use whole milk. Greatest blender in the whole world. So we don't have the greatest blender in the whole world, so we just add little by little at a time so the blender doesn't get jammed up. And never add ice to your milkshakes. I know some people that do that.
How's that?
Thank you, Stamos. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And it's shake time.
Am I the guinea pig again?
You are the guinea pig again. Are you excited?
Well, if they're like the scrambled eggs you made, it should be fine.
Those awesome scrambled eggs.
Microwavable scrambled eggs.
All right.
Looks like something out of Fear Factor or
And-
Harry Potter. How's that?
That's like the worst whipped cream I've ever seen. Okay, stop. I think it's pretty good. And this has been another episode of What's Cooking Good Looking with Aaron Van Slyke.
And Alex Stamos.
And enjoy your Shamrock Shakes and have a great St. Patrick's Day.
Hey viewers, I'm Brant Ranch and this is What the Tech for the week of March 13th, 2012. Now there's a lot of Apple news this week because on March 7th they revealed the specifications for the iPad 3. Actually, they didn't even name it the iPad 3, they just named it the new iPad, which is a little bit weird considering they're also going to start selling the iPad 2 for a reduced price of $399. Now, the new iPad sports a double resolution that actually has 1 million more pixels than a 1080p television. That means that the new iPad will have more pixels than a 50-inch television, which is a little bit mind-boggling. It also has quad-core graphics. No Siri integration right off the bat, but that can be solved with the software update because the hardware is definitely tough enough to handle it. iPhoto, a popular application on the Mac platform, will also be available for the new iPad and the iPad 2 for $4.99. Original iPad owners are left out in the dark, but guess what, guys? Every 2 years, you've got to upgrade. Also, in keeping with the green theme, Apple stock is at $589. That means you can actually buy a 16 gigabyte Wi-Fi iPad for less than 1 share of Apple stock. The boys in Redmond, aka Microsoft, must be crying because their stock price is hovering around $33. Better luck next year, guys. Well, the times they are a-changin' because the Encyclopedia Britannica just announced that they are no longer going to be making any print copies of the encyclopedia. It's going to go all digital. So in terms of Encyclopedia versus Wikipedia, Wiki won. To put it into context, Encyclopedia Britannica has been operating for 244 years. That means that it was around before the Revolutionary War. Mind-boggling. In video game news, Double Fine Entertainment, which is headed by Tim Schafer, the guy who invented Secret of Monkey Island, recently ended their Kickstarter campaign after raising over $3 million. That shattered the previous Kickstarter record of not even $1 million. 87,000 people opted to back the game, including 5 people who paid $10,000 for a trip to Double Fine Studios to hang out with Tim Schafer for a day and get lunch. Also, the third installment of the popular Mass Effect series has shipped 3.5 million units worldwide. Keep in mind that doesn't include digital downloads, nor does it mean that they've sold. It just means they've shipped. But hey, given the popularity of Mass Effect 1 and 2, I wouldn't be surprised if it broke 5 million within a month. Finally, the latest app to hit the nation, to cause craziness around the nation is Draw Something. It's a multi-platform application that's free or 99 cents, and in only a couple of weeks has garnered 20 million downloads. So if you're not hip to it, download it on the Android or iOS marketplaces. Well, that's all for this week, but I will see you next week. Peace out.